Yo, what's going on, everybody? My name is Daniel Allen, and this is my State of the Danion address. Welcome back, everyone, or welcome for the first time to the Dan Show. I know I've been ghost for a while, and when I started this content, one of my main concerns was being consistent, which I had been for the first run of the interviews, but naturally, if you wake up every day, life eventually has monkey wrenches in store for you. My last episode of the show was my birthday episode, which served as the finale for season 1. And it was a fun time with all my friends and loved ones around who showed up and had a lot of positive energy and things to say. Well, things have changed tremendously since then. I wanted to start recording episodes for season 2 of this show in March and April and have them all ready to drop in May, which would have been a year and on schedule since the first episode dropped in May 2021. Well, for those who actually care, or those who are just miserable and thirsty for tea and gossip, I'll give you a month-to-month story form account on how this year has treated old Dan. There will be a lot of reading from a script, as it is the only way I can keep an organized account of all the things I want to share and express without leaving things out or going all over the place. Also, at this point, I'm tired of saying these things over and over again, so I will be referring anybody I haven't seen in a while to this episode. We can talk about it afterwards. So yeah, this is my State of the Danion address regarding my life this year. January, new year, new me. As most people know, I worked at a liquor store in Buckhead for about 4 years that had been purchased by Chick-fil-A at the end of last year, with New Year's Eve being our last day open for business. I spent the first week of January helping to close and empty out the store of all its contents. This was in preparation of working at a different location within the company. I took the last 3 weeks off in January, took a trip to New Orleans to clear my head and be prepared for these new adjustments and changes. Whenever I take a trip, I usually come back as a new person and in a different mindset. It's like I go through a portal, but this go round, I wasn't prepared at all for the kind of changes that were ultimately in store. February, the shitstorm prequel. I started the new job at said different location that was in the process of switching ownership. Now, through most of this episode, I will speak very generally and not too specific about certain things and people because no matter how I feel about the situations I reference, I have enough respect for the parties involved to not be disrespectful. I've also grown past a lot of that kind of energy. That don't mean I'm not going to be honest though. This is a story about my life and this is my show. Returning from New Orleans at the beginning of February, which was a really fun trip, unfortunately was immediately met with turmoil between me and the missus. But it seemed like a dark cloud that had blown over like many others had. Or so I thought. Moving on, part of some of the new transitions in store for me was moving into a promotion at this new location that I began working in at the beginning of February. With every new job comes new coworkers, new procedures, and new leadership to adjust to. And these were the adjustments I was going through all of February at this new location. March, aka D-Day, aka D-Month, aka what D-Fuck. This is where life gets interesting to say the least for old Dan. At the beginning of March, the relationship that I was in for 3.5 years had unfortunately ran its course. My girlfriend made the decision to break up with me. This was a change I did not ultimately see coming, but I would be lying if I said that things were going great in our relationship. While the love for each other was still there, her deciding to be the one to rip the Band-Aid off was ultimately the right one. And in hindsight, there were many signs of things that were verbalized in the last few months that were indication that she was checked out and this day was coming. I chose to be ignorant to these signs, just chalked it up as our regular bullshit that we would eventually get through. Naturally, this was the beginning of a rough time for me, mentally and emotionally. It was a kick in the face, and it hurt. But it was still so new that I was more so confused, numb, and annoyed by it than I was feeling the actual hurt that would soon settle in. This same week, I started a pre-approval process for a house loan. I spent 2021 erasing all my debt, saving for a down payment, and building my credit to get to this point. I was aware that the market was starting to change upward, but had no idea how ridiculous it was going to be at that time. Every day I continue with this process, the interest rates and the house prices would go up day by day. It wasn't long at all that I realized that this was the worst time in human history to be trying to buy a house in Atlanta. I stopped the process by mid-March. This was very deflating because I was very excited about that process just to get another rude awakening. Also, around mid-March, things started to take an unexpected turn at work. I would be lying if I said I wasn't emotional due to the previous week's events, but I can also say that I wasn't disrespectful to the job I still had to perform. Well, some concerns came up in regards to me and what my role would be at this new store, and to say the least, me and the new ownership didn't see eye to eye on some things. Some things were brought up regarding my behavior and ego that I was pretty confused about, and still am. But looking back at it now, whatever the issues were was more than I could even dare to comprehend. I think, like most jobs, they thought I would be the custom version of who they thought I should be, all while others kind of get to do or say whatever they want. But whatever. I felt very much played at this point. And after some side conversations and decisions had been made by ownership, I decided to leave that job at the end of March before any more issues could arise. I didn't even work there for 2 whole months, nor did I get a chance to fill the role in which was discussed for me for quite some time before things went south. While it was my own choice to leave, I feel like I was forced out. And I also feel like those in charge allow their current staff to play them, and me ultimately. I didn't have the time nor energy to play with or be petty with other grown men. Even though I strongly feel like there are some other unspoken factors that went into play in regards to the issues with me, I don't think mentally or emotionally I would have been capable of keeping that job had I not left. Particularly considering how things played out in such a short time frame. Hey, things happen, and I genuinely wish the best of luck to them. Between being broken up with and me breaking up with my new job / the career I thought would be my future, I now start to shift into the beginning stages of depression and a state of internal panic. I'm 35 years old, newly single, can't buy a home, and just quit my job with nothing lined up. Now I know you're thinking it's crazy to do that, but this is the only way I've ever left a job. I have a very clear line and limit with things, and once I'm done, I'm done. You ever try to get another job while you still have one? It's hard, and most times you just stay where you are and deal with the bullshit. Well, I can't do that. To each its own, I guess. I like to think that me being emotional about the breakup didn't contribute to my decision to quit my job, but at the time, I felt like it was something I didn't have to do, particularly if I wasn't going to be in a relationship anymore or have to worry about what someone else's perception of my life was. Even though their perception of me was already, actually, I'm not going to go there, respect, remember? For me, if one thing I was doing was going to end abruptly, I might as well end the other thing, which was the liquor store gig, and completely hit reset on life. As reckless as that decision may have been, or not, sometimes you got to take risks. April/May. Emotional roller coaster. Both of these months blend together because I began to shift from being just annoyed and numb from both unexpected kicks in the face in March to full on depression, sadness, and confusion. I was only unemployed for about 10 days before I was randomly offered a gig doing security at Club Revel at the beginning of April. It was more like just an unplanned vacation from work. Now, I don't mind being specific about this job because I don't really care the same way they didn't really care and just looked at me as a big dumb security guard. This was a job I would have had no interest in prior to March, but I was at a point where I had to take whatever I could, and also I was just staying in the house, being the best version of a hurt boy I could. So it was good to have a reason to leave the house. I spent Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday nights doing something that I had grown to hate doing the most: standing at a club, listening to the same 10 songs, being surrounded by cigarette/hookah smoke, and watching people be drunk idiots wasting their money on drinks and sections. But not just for the couple of hours you choose to spend at the club, when you go on your own. No, I had to be there from open at 9 p.m. to when they closed at 3:30 a.m. It was 6.5 hours of torture. The job was easy and tax-free money as I was considered an independent contractor, and it was cool the first couple of weeks, but it got old real quick, and all I could think to myself is, fuck, is this what I'm doing now? But the job was paying the bills, and I wasn't doing anything else but lashing out, getting fucked up at home, and drowning in my own sorrows. The club eventually replaced my house as the new address for my depression. Standing there doing nothing for hours would just have my mind wandering and thinking the darkest of thoughts. Once May rolled around, I was not a well person mentally or physically. I was at the peak of my depression, and I knew so because I completely lost my appetite. I could eat something for brunch, but other than that, I had to force myself to eat dinner, which would consist of a salad that most times I wouldn't finish, or I would just flat out convince myself that I didn't need to eat anything because I wasn't hungry. Sadly, I felt like I was losing it mentally. I also felt so lonely, mainly because I had zero communication with the person who I was in love with, and also being the very social person I am, I found that no one was fucking with me. My phone used to blow up with all kind of plans and invites and what you up to's, but for the past 2 months, it was nothing. I found out very quickly who my actual friends were and the people who just claim to be your friends only when you're around them. It was a tough pill to swallow, and as a result, I was forced to hang out with someone I had been avoiding for years: myself. I felt so uncomfortable by myself, almost as if I was someone else. A lot of times we put ourselves in comforting settings with others to avoid addressing our own flaws, insecurities, and internal issues because your friends aren't going to necessarily put you on blast about them. I was on full-on hurt boy. I was a full-on hurt boy by mid-May. Mad at the world, mad at myself, and considering things I never thought would be on the table as options. I'd reached my darkest moments of the year. I started to express myself via social media, mainly because all I was doing was sitting in the house or at the club all night. These had become my 2 depression stations, and I had isolated myself from everything, everyone, and had no sane way of telling people how I was doing. Now, I know some of y'all saw the tweets I would post on my Instagram story of me and my feelings. I wouldn't say it was a cry for help necessarily, more so than a cry to see who would simply reach out or not. I was still very confused why at that point some folks in particular hadn't checked on me. Some were well aware of my situation while others had no clue, rightfully so. A handful of folks did hit me up during the barrage of Hurt Boy posts to check in, and I really appreciate that. But let me make one thing clear. If you were just one of the onlookers tuned in every day and entertained by my sadness, I don't give a fuck what your opinion is about those posts. I actually was just sharing my raw, honest feelings and was not doing it for a reaction or for anyone to go report back on. I guess y'all thought I was going to fall off. I eventually knew that I had to pull back on these type of posts because I was already well aware that no one actually cares about you on social media. It's just all entertainment. And people actually create group chats and laugh at your misery if you're silly enough to put it out there. I didn't really care about these factors though. I wanted to see which faces would tune in every day to what was obviously someone going through a miserable stage in life. Some faces I expected not to care, other faces I'm rather disappointed in. But hey, that's life, and everybody got their own shit to worry about. At this point, I definitely know who my actual friends are and who are the people I just know exist. Sometimes you expect people to be there for you, and ironically, they end up being there for the next person more than they are there for you. Hey, again, that's life. At this point, it's the end of May. I had lost about 15 pounds due to not eating. I absolutely hated being at the club, and I knew things needed to change or else I was headed down a path of no return. Fortunately, around this time, I was presented with an opportunity to bartend at the most popular brewery in Atlanta. I felt like this was the first break I had gotten all year after being constantly dealt shitty hand after shitty hand. June, acceptance / breaking up with myself. A lot of things I had mentioned before had started to settle in, and I was less confused about a lot of the thoughts I was conflicted with. I was able to start accepting what my situation in life was instead of trying to lash out or fight it. I was still not in a great place, but also not feeling so dark anymore. At the end of May, I started bartending at the brewery. Bartending is a job I'd wanted to get into for a while as I already had the alcohol knowledge working retail liquor for the past 4 years. I was now in a position to transition out of security gig, which I did almost immediately at the beginning of June. I was able to accept that I knew who I could depend and rely on. I also could start wrapping my head around the fact that the person I considered to be the best thing that had ever happened to me now wanted nothing to do with me, which had been made clear at that time. Not sure why that couldn't have been made clear from the beginning, but hey, like I said in the beginning, respect. Anywho, I had also accepted that I had grown comfortable and complacent in my 30s in respect to working a cushy job at the liquor store, having the attractive girlfriend that was younger than me that I thought I would marry and have kids with, renting a crib by myself in Morningside, even though I'm guaranteed to be the brokest person in the zip code. I had become far too comfortable with where I was in life, and I would allow past traumas and my poor upbringing to justify the thoughts that I had made it. There was a lot of my ego coupled with rationalizations of victimhood that had me living with a skewed outlook. There was still a lot of work to be done in my life. Things were going so well unexpectedly for me, it was hard to break out of that comfort zone. It seemed like this was what life was going to be, and I was okay with it. I come to the realization that I needed to address the toxic traits that had landed me in this newfound position in life, and the things that I needed to do to turn my life around. I had spent a lot of uncomfortable time alone to the point where I learned to accept the most important thing, which was myself. I knew what was good about me. I knew what was fucked up about me. I knew the potential and talent I possessed, and I also knew the things that were holding me back. I also knew that it was a blessing to have a dry phone and no distraction or noise in my life. I very much embraced it as opposed to feeling like no one likes me. It's because I started liking myself finally, for the first time in years, but there was still work to do, decisions to be made, and execution to be done. Weed and alcohol had been my escape my whole adult life, with weed being my most consistent habit of all. Alcohol was always something I could pick up and put down with no struggle. And while I very well did have a problem with drinking, it wasn't the abuse of alcohol that was the issue. It was my behavior when I had too many. The way my personality is set up, I'm either doing too much of something or I'm not doing it at all. I'm very hot and cold. I'm either all in or all out on something. Admittedly, an immature trait to have to be in my 30s, but I acknowledge it. I don't really know what moderation or a middle ground looks like. Weed has always been a constant, though, to the point where I consider it to be, quote, medicinal, just to justify the habit. Weed is something I would do when I woke up, when I was bored, throughout the day, and before I went to bed. I was always high. Alcohol was different. I could always control when was an appropriate time to drink. Controlling appropriate behavior while drinking was a whole different thing. I had demons, and they needed to be addressed. By mid-June, both things no longer felt good anymore. Instead of feeling like I was locked behind bars while sober, and the locks being unleashed when I would get drunk or high, it now felt like another layer of locks and walls were put up when I would get fucked up. It started to feel uncomfortable every time, and I made the decision that on July 1st, I would stop drinking, but not necessarily stop smoking, as I still needed some form of an escape. At the last week of June, I decided I would stop smoking as well on July 1st and start a completely sober journey, giving myself a chance to be clear-headed and fully focused on things for the first time as an adult. Aside from the physical substances and distractions, I also had to cut out the digital ones, which was Instagram and Twitter. These two things are undeniably the biggest time wasters in a lot of people's life. And also, in a lot of cases, it's the most toxic part of their life. Instagram is a place where people crater their physical appearance, relationship, or social status insecurities. And Twitter is a place where people attempt to be the smartest person in the room or pretend activists on issues they are actually ignorant on for retweets and attention. There's always a warden of the timeline. And ironically, these people are usually awkward in real life. People definitely do not like hearing this, nor would they dare admit it. The hit dogs always holler anytime you bring up their beloved timeline. When you're caught up in the tangled web social media weaves, it's almost as if you've got Stockholm Syndrome, which is where you justify trusting and loving the very thing that holds you captive. People will treat you like a flat earth conspiracy theorist when you tell them uncomfortable truths about life. I get so much blowback from people who don't realize social media is their whole identity and the place they seek validation. But hey, let me speak for myself. Instagram and Twitter were the next most toxic things in my life besides substances, and I needed to cut those two distractions out in order to focus on my actual life. It was also at this point where I realized that it wasn't just the breakup that had me going through this emotional roller coaster. While it did hurt a lot and take its toll on me, the reality is that it served as a catalyst for me to ultimately get my life together. Being pushed away from the liquor store gig ended up being a blessing in disguise as well, because without these two unexpected events, I'm not so sure I would have made these changes so soon or at all. Life forced me to focus on all the things that my ego and complacency allowed me to ignore. It was easy for me to brush off criticism when it came from my girlfriend because she had her own internal issues and struggles to deal with, just like everyone else does. It was also easy to overlook criticism when it came from folks at my job because they had their own bullshit and personality flaws on many levels that they had to deal with as well. But I couldn't justify ignoring criticism when it came from my close friends. There would be side conversations had with me out of love regarding my behavior. I knew then that I was going down a path of pushing people away, and I couldn't afford that. Pushing people away was a thing my ego would normally write off because my thoughts were, quote, if you can't handle being around Dan, then you need to just stay the fuck away. But it was when my close friends would tell me that I was wilding out that I knew I needed to change. These are the people that would still be there after any relationship, job, or anything that would come and go. I was not willing to let these people in my life down. I needed to curb my ego and start learning what being humble felt like. I know that I'm a good person, but I'd come to the point where I felt like I was holding on to the last bit of what was good. My ego had very much become a double-edged sword in the sense that I was cutting myself down as much as I would cut others down. I wasn't picking my battles wisely, and as a result, losing an internal war. I was not proud of myself for the first time in my 30s, and nothing really seemed to be on the horizon that would change that. I had to leave the person I'd grown so comfortable with being and fast. The old me. July. Sobriety, focus, and tangible changes. July 1st was my first day of sobriety, cold turkey sobriety. The alcohol wasn't the challenge, but the weed was. I never thought I'd be at a point so soon in life where I'd want to put the blunt down, but here I was. I'd realized that I spent more time high than not my whole adult life, with the only break being when I stopped for 4 years between ages 26 and 30. Oddly enough, after the first week of being sober, I didn't even think about weed anymore, but being sober still had its obstacles. Just because you resist the urge to use doesn't mean you aren't still going through an internal struggle. While I was feeling much better than I had in the treacherous months of April and May, I still knew I wasn't in the clear from depression and being easily frustrated by things. I now had to approach dealing with them from a productive manner rather than a destructive one. Also, when you go sober, you have the most bizarre dreams. The theme of these dreams are usually of suppressed thoughts and confusing/uncomfortable scenarios. I now find myself constantly dreaming of the same person that I thought I had turned the corner of having consuming thoughts over. It's your mind's way of saying, hey, it's time to really process this shit. I know this is a cool story so far. It's almost over. At this point, I had been working at the brewery bartending for a month, and while it was far better than wasting my life in the ratchet walls of Club Revel, I knew that this couldn't or wouldn't be the end-all be-all in terms of work for me. Panic started to creep back in. It was all fun for the first month, but just like at the club, I knew I had to make something happen. Fortunately, sober me finds joy in being active and having things to do because I wasn't doing a goddamn thing else. Life decides to deal me another non-shit hand in July. I feel like the one in a possible hands I had been getting all year were turning into 4 and 5 books. I get presented with the opportunity to apply for an actual photography job with a company that is contracted all around the state of Georgia taking school pictures. I'm now starting to feel excited about life again for the first time this year. I'm seeing changes and decisions I chose to make starting to reap their benefits. Not drinking has caused me to lose weight. Depression also had a lot to do with it, but yeah, not drinking was keeping the weight off. I started to feel so much stronger mentally. I had fully regained my appetite after being at the peaks of sadness and depression. The feelings of darkness was slowly allowing light to shine through. I continued to grind the rest of July at the brewery and started what became a month-long onboarding process with the photography company. Shadowing here and there, getting my feet wet at different locations, before they were able to give me the official green light to start. July ended up being the first month where I felt good about myself and the things I had going on. I had truly turned a corner in changing my life's trajectory as a whole, physically and mentally. The main difference I can point out was sobriety and not being distracted by social media or pussy. August, I feel like a new person. After a month-long process of back and forth emails with the company, I officially got the job for the photographer position at the beginning of August, with the school year kicking off right around the corner. You couldn't have told me 4 months prior while I was standing in Club Revel debating if life was worth living or not that this is what I'd be doing in such a short span of time. My life is weirdly consistent when it comes to things like that. I've been told my bounce back ability is like no other. I can kind of see it now, but I grew up poor and in the trenches, so whenever I find myself back in an adverse situation in life, it don't really be a shock to me. It's just like, okay, I've been here before, and I know what I got to do. Not everyone is built like that. This photography gig will ultimately be my 4th job this year, but it was the kind of job that I had been waiting for. The other jobs I had were very much limbo ones, whereas this one had lifted my spirit. Waking up at 5 a.m. and driving to different parts of the state is uncharted territory for me, but I wake right up with a sense of pride and happiness knowing that this is a productive step forward. Even though it felt like an eternity, in the span of 5 months, I had gone through every cycle of emotion possible and fought through what I feel would have broken most people in half. I'd be lying if I said it didn't almost break me, but in just 5 months, I had completely changed my life around, and that was my goal when I decided to go sober. For the first time in my life, I can say I'm doing a job involving something that I love, which is being social, taking photos, and working with professional equipment. I'm also on an actual career path and not just another dead-end job, and I still get to pick up bartending shifts whenever I want at the brewery. Photography is now my profession, and bartending is my side hustle. Who would have thunk it? I'll say this as a piece of advice for anybody out there who possesses a creative bone. Don't let anyone shitting on your craft affect you. You will often run into people who will disrespect your work or flat out have no clue what learning and growing in the trial and error process looks like for you. If you truly love what you're doing, keep doing it. People will try to compare your work to what they see on social media and deem it inferior. Let them live in their own fantasy. People will also ask for your services and expect it to be the same as the people they see on Instagram with 500,000 followers. Tell them to hire that person if that's what they want. They won't, though. People want the glitz and glamour of social media, but don't want to pay for it. A very common energy to avoid. Instant gratification has become a huge misconception and problem in today's society. People don't respect when you're under construction. They just want the final product. How convenient is that? If you feel confident in your talent, don't let anybody's uncreative opinion make you feel like you need to adjust or live up to something without going through the proper routes of learning. You never know what's in store for you around the corner when you decide not to cut them. On the flip side, if you are simply struggling with trying to figure out what your next move in life is, don't let anyone else force it upon you. Do it for yourself. You can't live your life for others' approval or validation because at the end of the day, the same person who is pressuring you to change for them is only living and doing things for themselves. If someone can't give you construction input or ideas that could actually help you move forward, then you have to let them worry about themselves. You will only be a fool to someone else's wishes if they don't line up with what you truly want or feel. This applies to parents, loved ones, significant others, friends, strangers, whoever. If you feel you need to piece your life together, then be selfish. Do things for you on your own accord, not on someone else's. Also, this advice applies to people who are not a bum. If you depend on somebody for your livelihood, you kind of have to do what they say. So fix that first and then go through these steps I just named. But yeah, July and August have treated me so well. And while it's felt like an eternity this year, I know that it's still relatively early in the healing process for me. I know I'm not fully in the clear yet regarding a lot of things. I'm fortunate to have acknowledged the things I need to work on and started the process of addressing them. I feel so much better and excited about the new path I've positioned myself in. I can't thank my core group of friends enough, and it's only a handful of y'all. Joe, Aubrey, Oliver, Gerald. I know you watching this, my boy. I promise I'm going to pull up on you. I promise. Justine, Adrian, Chop, aka Talk Nigga, and really anyone who allowed me to talk their ears off this year and let out all my pain, frustration, saltiness, and confusion. I literally don't know where I'd be or even if I'd be without you all. Why are you talking so much, Joe? That boy Joe been in the cut. Y'all know him?
Hey guys, I still exist too.
You need to come in closer. You need to come in closer. Yeah, come on over. Come on over, baby. See, if we off the script now, you can tell a little we off the script now.
This thing won't stay on.
We in there? I heard it come in.
It's like going on that stuff.
All right, let's tell them about the content coming up. So I recently changed the YouTube channel from just the Dan Show to DCA Media. We want this YouTube to become like a multi-content platform with different kinds of projects as opposed to just this podcast. So yeah, stay tuned for that. We still trying to map out what that is. But the first side project is Crack Diaries. This is a Joe.
Hell yeah.
This is a Joe Thomas and Daniel Allen collaboration. See, I cleaned that up. I can't clean up my stumbles from earlier. But hey, man, how Joe Biden sound when he was saying his State of the Union address?
And Herschel Walker.
Yeah, right. If the president can slip up, y'all better leave y'all fucking comments to yourself. But yeah, Crack Diaries is a book that Joe's father, Richard Blake Thomas, wrote. What, in the early 2000s?
2008. It might have been
Before that,
It might have been like
yeah.
2006, 2007.
Yeah. This is a book that was written by his father, in which we have broken each passage down and started to post on this page. We're going to turn this whole book into an audiobook. Once we're done, we're going to eventually just have it all as one book recording to be offered online. After we do this book, I will then reach out to other people who are independent authors and offer this same service. So yeah, if that's something you're interested in, holler at us. The next installment of the Dan Show episodes. This episode is kind of a segue between those episodes. Like I said, I had plans in March that I wanted to do in regards to this. I had a lineup of people, and I've just kind of scrapped all of that. The Dan Show will turn into more of a variety kind of show with different kinds of style of content. Some would just being on site, catching people in action. Some will be journalistic type pieces covering like certain topics. Potentially more episodes like this where I pick a topic to speak on via like a script format. Or if people feel like they can relate to this episode, you can come on and get your bars off too. For me, personally, taking the time to write this stuff out in an organized fashion and read it out loud was therapeutic. It might be the same for you. Also, like I said earlier, as the months progress and people ask me what's up, I end up having to spend about as much time as you've listened to me talk, tell them all the context. Because if I leave anything out, it's just going to sound crazy or more crazy than it already sounds. If there's any topics you'd like for me to research and discuss in this fashion, you can reach out to me via email or phone, or hit Joe or Aubrey up via social media, which I'm assuming we're going to make Aubrey put the social medias up here. I will only be peeking my head in and out of Instagram. Like I said, I'm off social media, and social media is a fucking two-headed dragon because you want to get off of it to like focus on your life, but then if you do anything creative, you have to fuck with it in some capacity. So I really hate how social media kind of has us, just kind of has us in our balls in a vice grip in terms of using it as a tool to like get your content out of there. And the only reason I got back on Instagram recently was for this podcast. I was completely off of Instagram for 2019 and 2020 for the same reasons. Just trying to avoid distractions. I was in a relationship. I was like, hey, let me get off Instagram, which is a source of me hitting people's DMs. But fuck that. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, you can reach out via those same options. We're definitely wanting to mix the content up from the just sit down discussion. We showed we can do that already, so we definitely want to grow on it. The new sober me goes down these OCD rabbit holes of projects that I'd be real excited to do instead of using distractions and excuses as to why I can't execute things. So stay tuned. I'll give you an example. I'll go from spraying and wiping off this table to had done cleaned the whole house and be in the yard mowing the lawn. Go sober. You too will find yourself being very productive. Weirdly productive too. Oh yeah, we did stand up at the beginning of August.
We did stand up.
It was a very interesting experience, and it went well. And actually, before we go too far into it, here's a quick rundown of what that night looked like.
I pull over for crashes and wait for the ambulance, police, and GDOT to arrive. Why, you ask? So I can be cool and pull out my phone like the rest of these fucking miserable idiots and say, ATL scoop! Oh man, we got one ATL scoop! Another dude asked for $5 for something to eat. I said, cool, I'll take you to McDonald's, get you something to eat, get you right. This man got an attitude and said, nigga, I'm a vegan. A what? A who? Do you know how many animals had to die to keep those doors open? I'm a man with morals, I'm not eating this shit. Hey, anybody out there use Siri? Seriously? Y'all put y'all trust in Siri? It's fitting that Siri is a woman because she doesn't actually listen to you. She just interprets what she thinks you said. Yeah. I've been testing out the dating scene recently. I went out to dinner with a young lady last week, and she proceeds to order the most expensive thing on the menu. The nerve of this girl to be so bold on the first date, expecting to be wined and dined in such a fancy manner, with inflation the way it is, and being on the brink of a recession. So me, being the high value man that I am, I decided to pull a slick move on her trifling ass. I go to the bathroom, slide the window open, and I dive clean out that hole, taking a short fall down to the ground. So I'm dusting myself off in the Chipotle parking lot. Fucking extra guac. Bitch got me fucked up. Hey, y'all have been great. I'm Dennis. That's my time tonight. My wife has no concept of time. I said all the clock's 30 minutes ahead, and now we're only 10 minutes late everywhere we go. Being a parent is fun. My daughter's teacher told me that she's one of the brightest in class and we should think about skipping first grade. Then my daughter said, Daddy, when I grow, will my clothes grow too? No, baby girl, you're good in first grade. There's no such thing as unconditional love. Even with my kids, I love them under the condition that they're mine. If I did not know them, I probably wouldn't love them. I don't know how to talk to people. One of my coworkers was pregnant, and she was getting really big. But I didn't want to say that to her. So I was like, that baby ain't bullshit, is it? I realized later that was no better. I had a joke about it, Vogue, but you're never going to get it. But then I was arrested for trying to break into the Apple store. But my lawyer got it reduced to just trespassing when I told him I was trying to break into tech. Almost done. Actually, that was the last one. Y'all have a good one, all right? Let me go for Joe.
Yeah. So what was super cool about that was it was me and Joe's first time. I was all in my feelings when the text went out. When was when they sent that text about that?
Like
June, right?
Yeah,
And we did it in August 5th, right? August 5th was also a very interesting day, like kind of ironically in my life. August 5th was the first day I had went on site with the photography company, like what, like on the clock with them and not just kind of like training. And then August 5th was the first I left that place and went straight to the stand-up show, which was my first night doing stand-up. So I'll always remember August 5th, no matter which direction my life goes in, whether the job works out or stand-up works out, as a very interesting day in my life in terms of me just really starting things that I didn't know was possible.
Turning point.
Yeah, it was a turning point.
Turning point day.
But yeah, it was interesting. We did that with a group of guys. It was kind of a safe space for comics for their first time. Shout out to the other guys who were on the lineup. And as you saw in the video that just played, me and Joe ended up being in the top 3 of the 7 people in the lineup, and this man won.
Surprise, surprise.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So we
told some dad jokes. I found out later folks were calling me dad in the audience, so that took a shot at my ego a little bit. But that works.
Yeah, man. I was really happy about that. They talking about running that back again, possibly in November. While I don't want you to come, and I won't be keeping you posted on any stand-up that I might do until I get comfortable with it, it felt good to get that first-time jitters out, because when they sent that text out in June, I still was just like, fuck that. Like, I don't even want to leave the house. I'm not finna stand in front of a bunch of people and to potentially have them, everybody's scared to bomb. And fortunately, that wasn't the case for either one of us. But yeah, it was fun.
It was cool. It was cool.
Very cool. You want to say anything else about that?
About stand up, no man, the place was awesome. I think we gotta definitely mention where we did the stand up. It was at Underground Atlanta, MCD Studios. I think is the name of the place. We'll put a thing down here for them. But
Yeah, it was at MCD Studios. It's one of the only places that's currently open in Underground because Underground's being completely like
it's different.
refurbished, demolished, renovated. I'm not sure who they think gonna come to Underground once they finish it, but it certainly won't be the residents of Atlanta.
Won't be the folks who used to reside at it.
Right. But yeah, shout out to them. They were real accommodating. The lady who runs it was super nice. I forgot her name.
She was awesome. It was like I said, it was a nice art gallery. You'll see in the videos what it looked like. It was cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that was interesting. Have we done? That was the only cool thing we did this summer, I think. Right?
Yeah.
We worked on the crack. Worked on the Crack Diaries. Shout out to Danny.
Shout out
Y'all
to
follow Danny.
Follow Danny.
You know what I mean? We gonna make Aubrey put the Danny. She's got a lovely voice, and we're so happy to have her work with us to read some of these passages.
She's also got two books. She's got a nutrition book out.
Mm-hmm.
Be sure to check that out. And she's got her children's book, Chicken and Pickle. Chicken and Pickle. Be sure to check those out for your children. If you have children in your life, get a couple of copies for those. Couple of copies of those for them. Really good content. Really good books.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, we're just gonna be trying to transition into working on some more content here. I'm gonna get with Aubrey, I'm gonna get with Joe, I'm gonna get with some other kind of creative folks I know. See what we can come up with, man. Me getting this new gig has definitely re-sparked my creative juices and my confidence because like I went from ignoring a lot of this equipment, the thousands of dollars of equipment that's in my living room, to now like setting it up, using it. But besides that, I've got thousands of dollars of my job's equipment in a cart right over there, in which I got to load into my car every morning and drive to the boonies of Georgia for. I done been to parts of Georgia I never have set my soul into. Carrollton, Milledgeville, where I was in Hiram. I've been to Hiram, but like all of these places, I'm just like, oh my God, humans live out here. I be passing by farms, lakes, all kind of open fields, and driving that far out to places sometimes. I gotta say, the girl Amaretta, you wrong. All them places you name, they is Atlanta. I want to apologize to anybody from Conyers or freaking Lithia Springs or Lithonia. My nigga, you live in Atlanta because the places that I drive to every morning,
those the boonies.
Boy. So I'm sorry, Amaretta. All them people, they live in Atlanta because before, I used to think anything that was more than 30 minutes away was absurd and I wasn't in Atlanta anymore. And I drive a minimum of 45 minutes away to each one of these schools every day. And I don't be in Atlanta no more. Like, it don't be no... You look at the population and the people who be serving you and the places you walk in and they all kind of look like, what's this?
You're not from around here, are you?
What's this nigga doing here? And I'd be like... I just want a bagel. So yeah, shout out to everybody who have gotten flack for living in the outskirts and been called, even though y'all are suburban kids, y'all in Atlanta.
You're closer to Atlanta than these other places.
Any places that's within 45 minutes now, I'll go. It's doable. Because my ass be on the road for an hour plus.
Early in the morning.
But hey, I love it. I mean... Like I said, You couldn't have told me when I was standing in fucking Club Revel just watching niggas be as niggerly as possible that this is where I'd be at. And I'm so thankful and I'm humble about it. You know, I'm not like poking my chest out or nothing like but like it's just crazy how much my life has changed from March until now. And 5 months.
It can happen fast.
Yeah. You know, just 5 months of change.
It's like we were saying time heals, and time you'll look back at those times and be like, damn, that went by actually really fast, or I don't remember a lot of that going through.
Right,
So,
right. And you know,
holding on is the number one thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, time will always tell.
You're so right about that. And time definitely has just run. One thing about it, time definitely is the ruler of all things. And if you think today is shitty and you think his life is fucked up, try taking tomorrow off. I'll just leave that at that. I got my passport too this year. It came about a month ago. It's sitting right there. Shout out to passport. And
Passport boy.
I got my boy Wally right there. Shout out to Wally. You know what I mean? That's for anybody who want to come in here. Any intruders, he gonna bite them up. But yeah, I got my passport.
Where you planning to go?
Well, for my birthday in December, I'm gonna take a trip to Mexico. I figure that's the easiest, like, first little international trip. But after that, I'm definitely have my sights on Costa Rica and Colombia. And that'll be a next year trip, probably a spring trip. I don't got Costa Rica and Colombia money, though. So I'm going to have to save up for these trips here.
Costa Rica's not bad. We went to Costa Rica. You can get an Airbnb for low in Costa Rica.
Oh, yeah. Man, these Airbnbs in Mexico are like $25,
That's how much they are in Costa
$31, and then you click on them, and it'd be like
That's a
newly
sky ride,
newly
yeah.
renovated this and that with a woman that'll come make guacamole out in the hallway and sing and do the Macarena. Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm just
Right.
kidding. Just joking. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Really, this year I just been trying to cross off all the things that I said I wanted to do and would do that I just haven't done due to like reasons that I stated before. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm just about to do this stuff. So yeah, there's a brief rundown month to month of where I've been at this year. Of course, there's so many more details. And if you want to know them, you see them. I could speak more elaborately on things because I left a lot of things out on purpose. Like I said before, I wasn't finna use this as the Dan Salty hour on whoever or whatever I was mad about. But there were some things that I needed to mention for you to even know what the fuck I'm even talking about. And everybody done went through this. Everybody like, these weren't like groundbreaking topics. I went through a breakup and I quit my job in the same month.
Who hasn't that happened?
That shit sucks, bro. Like, but respect to both. Respect to all parties involved. Truly. This is about me. You got anything else you want to say, Joe?
Nope. No, I don't talk much.
Yeah. We need to have
my script next time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We gonna let Joe get his bars off. And hey, for real, if you feel like you was going through some or kind of have some things you want to get organized, you can come on and talk about it. We'll load you up right on this screen. My trusty Surface Pro. We'll load you up right on this screen. You can have your script right here. It's got to be organized, though. I'm not going to let you just come up here and just give whatever version. You know what I mean? And also, sober me, I jot everything down. And anytime I have something I need to say, I have to write it down notes-wise. Otherwise, I'll have an organized thought on August 1st, and when it's time to talk about it on August 17th, I've got a updated new version of what I want to say Or I get so lost in the weeds going on rants and rambles, kind of like what I'm doing now, that I'll leave off very important things. And afterwards, somebody will pull off. I'll be like, oh, shit, I didn't say this, or I didn't say this. So instead, I just use this notes app. So I'm going to close this episode out with what I like to call Dan quotes. These are things that randomly run across my mind when I'm driving or doing other things, and I immediately jot them down in my notes tab before forgetting, like I mentioned. Whether they be original or subconsciously inspired by someone else, here are some Dan quotes to take away from this episode. You are the producer and master of whatever demons you possess. You are a slave to anything or anyone in which you seek validation from. The actual work is never easy. Simply talking about it is. You are a victim, sure, but now what? Using manipulation and deception to get what you want is guaranteed to hurt you in the end. The end may not be next week, next month, or next year, but it's on the way. No miracle has ever delivered itself to someone's front door. Material things only make you feel good while you possess them. Being willing to do anything for someone is not the same as doing anything they want. Let that sink in. The quote, word of God, are just words if you don't get the message. Don't confuse the trauma you couldn't control with the trauma you met halfway. Expectations of others is the quickest route to disappointment. Religion can be as productive or destructive as you allow it to be. Some of y'all aren't going to like these next two. Tithing and your pastor are two things that are not mutually exclusive. God did not appoint gatekeepers to his word, your relationship with him, or his blessings. Know the difference between seeking advice and seeking justification. Don't lose respect in yourself in the process of pleasing others. And lastly, don't waste your energy debating with people. You'll often find the cost of being right is too high to pay. Bye-bye.